Hi, fourth graders. So, this is chapter 18 of Beyond the Bright Sea. I stood up, very still in the darkness. The sea was louder than it had been a moment before, the stars bigger. I went carefully back inside the cottage, retrieved the lantern, set it carefully on my small table next to my bed. The cinnamon box was on my windowsill. I opened it slowly, took out the letter, unfolded it, held it in the lantern, and read again. If I could for now, hope you, bright sea, better off, lambs, little feather, I left something, day it might help. I remembered the carvings on the wall of the cottage on Pennaquis, a small lamb, alongside it a little feather. I put the letter back in the box, carried the lantern to one small mirror, turned my face, examined the mark on my cheek, a little feather. Dr. Eastman had written that there was no third baby, just one sent to New Bedford, one buried. But the letter in my hand, as ruined as it was, told me a different story. I read it again and again. Then I took its mysteries to bed with me, and I found them waiting in the morning, right where I'd left them. I was up and washed and dressed and out the door before daylight was more than a pale idea. I met Ash beyond the bass stands coming home. He stopped at the sight of me. "Miss me, did you?" he said, almost smiling. I nodded. It was true, I had. But that was not all. "I think I know who my real parents are," I said, and the smile was almost gone, as if it had never been. He walked past me, past the bass stands, down over the bluff, and across the sand bridge that was nearly dry for once, the tide dead low. "You'd be best along to Miss Maggie's," he said, as I hurried to keep up with him. "The police will be there soon. You and Mr. Sloane can tell your tales together." Outside the house, he stopped only to grab a bait net and a pail before heading for the tidal pools at the base of the rocks, where minnows and sand eels often found themselves stranded. He began to scoop them up into a pail. They flashed silver in the early light. "Osh," I said, "what's the matter?" But he didn't answer me. "Are you angry?" Though I couldn't see why he would be. He looked at me and away again. "I'm not angry," he said. "Do what you have to do." "I will," I replied, "like you said I should. You said I should pay attention to things, remember?" "I do." "Then why are you upset with me?" He looked at me full on, and I could see how sad he was. "Am I not real?" he said. I didn't understand what he was saying until I realized what I myself had said. "Ash, you are the most real thing in the world." "But I'm not your father," he said. "Of course you are. But you're not my only father, and you're not my mother." "I know that," he said. But he turned back to his work until I said, "The letter you gave me. It said a little feather, and there was a carving in one of the cottages on Pennaquis," I said, grabbing at his arm. "Ash, stop," which he finally did with a sigh. He turned the net inside out, dumping 3 sand eels into the pail and then sluicing in some water so they could breathe. He set aside and sat down on a nearby rock. I sat next to him. The rock was cold and a little wet and not comfortable at all. I found a carving of a lamb in the cottage, like the one on the grave marker, but smaller, and next to it a carving of a little feather. Osh looked at me intently. "Like the one on your cheek?" he said. I nodded. "You think that means something?" I nodded again, more slowly. "I do." Osh moved his pail into a bigger wedge of shadow so the fish would stay cool. "I suppose it might," he said. "2 lambs, 2 feathers, one of them right here." I touched my cheek. "Patients come from all over the world to Pennaquis, from islands off Africa, off South America, where people have skin more like yours. And one of them was a mother who lost one child to the mainland, to an orphanage where he had nobody at all." I felt as if I would cry, but I tried hard not to. "If you were that little baby's father, would you be able to send another one off to live all by herself, same as the first?" Osh shook his head. "I would not, no matter who was willing to take her." I took his hand in mine. "I think this little feather on my cheek means something. I think it means the second baby didn't die. I think it means they sent that baby to sea in an old skiff and didn't tell anybody. I think it means that the grave with the lamb marker is an empty grave." He looked down and away. I thought about the graveyard on Pennaquis. If I'm right, then my parents are dead. The lepers who are buried out there, Susanna and Elvin. He looked sad now in a different way. He laid his open hand on my cheek. "I'm so sorry if that's true," he said. "It's all right. You had nothing to do with anything except saving me." Osh looked at me curiously. "You wanted to prove that you weren't from Pennaquis," he said, "but now you seem almost glad to think that you are." "I know," I said, "I am, but that doesn't make any sense. Why would I want that? To have parents who died from a terrible disease, To have parents who had sent me out to sea in a leaky skiff when I was just a new baby. Ash smiled at me, and it was a sad smile. They had the best of all possible reasons for doing that, for trusting the sea to take you safely away and deliver you safely to a different shore. What reason? They loved you, Crow. They didn't want you to become ill like they were. And you said it yourself. They knew how lonely Jason was in that orphanage, and they wanted something better for you. He wasn't smiling anymore when he said, I wonder what he'll do when he finds out he has a sister. Okay, I want you to tell me, do you think that the grave with the lamb on it, is it empty? Or is there actually a baby buried there? I hope you guys have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye, Adams.